Hello, I'm Simon Clark from Taunton Leisure, and today I'm here to talk to you about our Tentipi collection. So Tentipi is a Swedish company, and the products today are made in their own factory in China with a very careful control. But let's talk a little bit about the history of Tentipi and how it evolved. Its founder, Bengt Gran, and still the CEO today, back when he was paddling on the Swedish rivers, was frustrated by the fact that he had to crawl into a two-man tent at the end of a good day's paddling and hide from the mosquitoes in the beautiful summer weather. And also that he couldn't share that moment with his friends and traveling or companions on the river. So, sometime later, he had a light bulb moment about what was required to enjoy such a trip on the river. He came about the design of a Tentipi tent, single pole construction that was able to have a heat source inside it and house quite a few people in one go and have mosquito netting inside. So the best of every world, if you like. So people inside, lots of people sat around the floor, a heat source to keep you warm in those cooler months, and hide from the mosquitoes for a good mosquito netting. So let's talk a little bit about the ranges that are available from Taunton Leisure. Although it's a simple design, it can be a little bit confusing in the size that you might require and indeed the different models and how they differ, because the differences are relatively small until you start to get into them in more detail. So the sizes that we keep are size 5, 7, 9 and 15. And that generally represents the number of people that you could, if you spread everybody in a circle around the tent, sleep inside the tent. Of course, it's highly unlikely you're going to put that many people in the tent unless you really have to. So our most popular size, it's fair to say, has been the 9 across the years. But in recent years, other people have been buying more into the 7s and sometimes the 5s if they want a really compact unit to travel with and even fly on a plane. Sometimes we've gone to shows overseas, and actually the best size to accommodate a few people and weight, even flying and even in polycotton, has been the size 5 or the 7 to accommodate a few people in one place rather than taking several small tents. So the 3 models that are available from Taunton Leisure are the Onyx, the Zircon and the Sapphire. And they differ very slightly, but importantly they all have their place depending on the amount of pieces that you want within that tent. In other words, if you want a stove inside the tent, then the chimney cap on the tent is available from the Sapphire and the Zircon. All of the tents can have a heat source inside and indeed an open fire if you want it. But it will work more efficiently the further up the scale you go. If you wanted something at what we might describe as an entry level, although Tentipi are by no means entry as a tent, then the Onyx is the starting point. The middle of the road is the Zircon, and that's highly featured, but still in the same fabric as the Onyx. And we'll come on to talk about fabrics a little bit further on. If you want the top of the range, then that's the Sapphire, and that changes by fabric as well, and that's a far more robust fabric, and it has all the features that Tentipi have available in one tent. So we'll take a look at each individual tent in a little bit later on in the video, but let's just have more of an overview of which tent might be right for yourself. The entry-level tent, the Onyx, if you don't want to spend too much, but you really want to buy into the quality of the tent, then you've got something which is a little bit stripped down in its features. It hasn't got the skirts going all the way to the floor, which might offer more protection in harsher environments. It's got a less sophisticated top vent to it, but you can still open the top of the tent. And then if you move on to the Zircon range, you get pretty much the same features that you get at the very top of the range, only you get it in the fabric which is the same as the entry level. And then when you move up to the Sapphire, you get a tent which is designed to use in the harshest environments that you could possibly imagine. They might be in the extreme cold, or it might be in the extreme heat, and anything in between. And research might show you that many people have lived in the top of the range Sapphire tent for a year or more, because the fabric is such that it's designed to last for a long time, and it's very, very durable. We can't show you physically in front of the camera very easily, but you have to take it my word, and we'll show you a little bit more detail about fabric later on. So it might not be for everybody to have the sapphire, but despite the fact that it can be used in those conditions, it doesn't mean to say it's any less suitable to use for day to day. I often joke with our customers when they're buying a tent to say that if you buy this model, you will be passing it down through the generations because it is going to last for so long. And the important thing about Tentipi as well is that it's still maintainable, it's repairable. You can always get every part going for the tent, and you could do that repair yourself. It doesn't have to go back to a specialist if you're handy with a needle and thread. But if you need a more robust sewing machine for more webbing or anything like that, then maybe that has to go off to a specialist tent repairer. But they are still maintainable, and that's good to know if you're going into the wilderness. But it's very rare that Tentipi and any of its components break down because they are built so strongly in the first place. And perhaps that's a valid point to focus on, is that Tentipi say if you're looking for a cheap tent, then perhaps you've come to the wrong place. But if you're looking for a tent which is great value, given what I said about how long the tents might last, then arguably the Tentipi represents very good value because it will last a long time in any of the collections. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fabrics that are available in our Tentipi collection. And the fabrics that they use are polycotton, which are breathable, quick drying and durable. Importantly, there are two fabric grades that they use. And what we're in front of right here is a Zircon 15. And this uses the Polmex standard fabric, which they call C for comfort. Now this fabric is designed for many years of use, but not designed particularly for the extreme use. If you want a tent to sort of go out onto the Arctic, then you need to have the Pol Pro. Now this fabric here is durable. It's designed for, good breathability if you're inside the tent, and you can see on the features of the Zircon that it has the fabric on the base here, which is designed for better durability. It's a very strong nylon with a PU backing on it, so it's waterproof, dries out very quickly, easy to clean up if it's against dirt or anything like that. And importantly with this fabric, it's impregnated. You don't have to keep waterproofing it. I think in the lifetime of stocking Tentipi, I've only ever reproofed one tent. So it's not something that you're going to have to regularly redo. And the way in which the fabrics work is that the water hits the fabric and then the cotton content within expands. And that seals up the passageway for any water to pass through it. And it keeps the water out 100%. Importantly, when it's really dry and a nice hot sunny day like today, inside the tent, it really feels lovely and cool because air can pass through the fabric. It's not restricted in this section of the tent at all. Added to which, within the design, you've also got lots of venting options, which we'll come on to talk a little bit more about as well. So we're in front of a Sapphire 9, complete as you can see with a stove inside of it. And we just want to talk to you a little bit about the fabrics that the Sapphire is made from. It's a Polmex P, or P for Pro if you like, which is a tent fabric that is designed for many, many years use and in harsh environments. I know you can't feel the weight on video, but you'll have to trust me in saying it feels very robust. If you were making a tarpaulin for a lorry or a canvas sheet for a trailer or something, you kind of grab this weight and you think, yeah, that might be what we would use for that. Tentipi test their fabrics consistently to make sure that they withstand by batch as well as continuous process of manufacture, to make sure that they withstand what they're designed to do. And indeed, they've got swatches of fabric across their factory roof, continually exposed to the elements to make sure that they continually perform as they should. Now, it's a polyester cotton fabric, as we've said before. It's a high content of polyester. When you grab the fabric, it feels perhaps a little more cotton-like than polyester. Importantly, it's waterproof and it's breathable at the same time. The water, once it hits the surface of the fabric, expands the fabric and makes sure that no water can pass through it. Equally, when it's dry, on a lovely hot dry day like it is today, moisture and air can permeate through the fabric so that you get a very nice environment inside the tent. It just makes it not clammy at all, and with the help of all the vents and everything around the tent, which we'll go on to discuss later, it makes it a very nice environment to be inside the tent. And very durable, as I said, and also easy to maintain. You don't have to waterproof this tent very often. I'd be surprised if you have to do it within the first 5 to 6 years of you owning the tent, even if at all. I personally have only ever proofed one Tentipi in my life, and that's how good the fabrics are. So we're in front of the Sapphire 9 right now, and we're just going to take you through what the ground vent options are within this tent. It has 3 ground vents in this model, and that is this flap of fabric across here on top of the tent, and it still has the skirt underneath. And as you can see, underneath here is a mosquito net panel, and in behind that is a zippered panel to come across that again if you need to close down in more severe weather when you don't want so much breathability. Importantly, when these are pegged out like that, and it allows the air to flow up underneath, if you've got a heat source inside the tent, an open fire or a wood burning stove inside, it helps the fire draw and send the smoke back out through the top cap where it's designed to go and doesn't stay inside the tent. Okay. So as you can see, looking up at the top cap, we've got it open a little bit, but we've also importantly got this mosquito netting on the inside, which has a draw cord system on it and also a toggle system to sort of tuck it back out of the way. And if you're in a mozzie area, then you can pull that close over to the pole, and that prevents mosquitoes coming in. Also worth mentioning that all of the cords that you can see on the top can sit close against the pole, and that allows the mosquito net to close right over. See the top cap and the way in which it adjusts. If I pull some cords from inside, and it's got many cords which we'll focus on a little bit more detail in a minute, you can see that the caps are individually adjustable, and they come back down to make a tight weather seal. Well, you can adjust this to add for ventilation, and or if you're using a heat source inside to let the smoke escape. So we're in front of the Zircon 9 here, but the features that we're going to talk about are the same throughout the whole of the range, and so they're common and easy for you to understand. So first of all, you may notice on the end here, on the pegging point of this webbing, it's got this wing which is sewn in to the seam, and this is quite a large area that the whole thing is sewn into, which is important for giving good stability of the mounting point. It means to say it's very durable. The weight has been spread across a wide area, so it's not likely to break very easily. And you can see heavily stitched in, so that if there's a lot of tension on here or over the course of time, that's not going to wear or break. The buckle itself is a webbing with a metal buckle on it, so it makes it nice and durable. And the way in which you adjust the tent when you're pegging it out is simply to pull down on the webbing strap there. You'll also see on this point that you have a thinner strap here, and this is designed to help adjust the toggling on the ground sheet. So if you use a ground sheet or an inner inside the tent, which we'll come on to later, you can toggle the inner tent to this or the ground sheet, and it helps add the tension to get the tautness of the floor inside. Now it's also worth mentioning how they also approach the guy lines and the tuck away system. Very, very simple, and I really like this because it's never going to go wrong. It's a nice thick piece of webbing thrown in there. There's an elastic keeper in here and a pull cord toggle, and you just simply roll up your guy line, tuck it into the elastic like so, pull tight on the toggle. You can do that with cold hands. Really easy to keep it. Sometimes it's a bit of a faff to tuck the guy line away. If there's such a thing as a pleasure to put a guy line away, here it is. Very simple design. So one important feature about a Tentipi, it's very stable in windy conditions, and that's something we have to become used to in the UK. So the Tentipi has 2 guy points, higher and lower. You don't have to put the guy lines out if you don't want to. If you want just to really clean, but if it's a really calm day, that's fine. But if you're going to wander off, we always recommend that you put some guy points down. Now the anchor points for The teepee are sewn into the seams with a large piece of webbing, so they'll take a lot of strain. The important thing about this conical design, it's very wind resistant. Most of the wind is higher up and not at the ground level, so it's the narrower part of the tent, and so therefore when we've had them out in extreme conditions and windy conditions, they stay put. They don't go anywhere, providing you put your guy lines down. They're adjustable guy lines, and the guy lines are made of stuff to last a lifetime. Importantly, you can replace any of these guy lines if you manage to wear them out. In my experience, if they're worn out, it's because you're using them over a sharp peg, which has abraded the tent peg when it's moving around in the wind. So let's just take a look at the common feature of the mosquito panel on the door. You can see you've got two covered zip lines there. One is for the door itself and one is for the mosquito panel. And if we have a look at that, you simply undo the zip, run it up, and inside, presto, you have a mosquito panel. So if it's warm weather, but maybe a bit drizzly, you can still have that panel open. And also it rolls back and toggles up with some toggles that are on the inside of the door there. And it just clips back onto the same point that the guy line is, because they're perfectly aligned, like so. The floor is an important part of the tent teepee if you're in the UK or anywhere where it gets wet. It's available in two versions. It's the Pro version or the Comfort version. What we've got here is the Comfort version, which in my opinion and experience has been adequate for most use. If you're on really hard ground, rocky ground, then the Pro is a good option. The Pro also has a slightly different zip opening system to the center. So let's have a look at that. The front part of the tent, the floor rather, has this zip system that runs right to the front, like this. It has a backer on it to stop any moisture coming up through the zip. But this zipper is designed to be used in a way like this. And once the tent is in place, if you tuck this back underneath, like that, and like that, then you can imagine that that's created your door area dry entrance. So if there's any water that drips off your tent coming into the front area there, it's gone into the ground and not onto your ground sheet. So that's one really nice feature of this floor. And the other is, if you are cooking in the center of the tent, or cooking in your tent, or that you've got a heat source in the tent, then these center zips here enable you to tuck the fabric back underneath, and you've exposed the ground to which you can have your heat source on there and do your cooking if you want to. As ever, please make sure that if you've got any heat source inside your tent or you're cooking, that you take adequate precaution to make sure that it's as safe as it possibly can be. But this system enables you to be in contact with the ground and you're not going to burn any of your fabric that easily. So the connection system for the ground sheet or the floor into the tent is very simple. It has this small toggle here, and that clips on to a ring at the base of the tent and is also then adjustable via the tent. And we're going to show you that now. Talked about the floor. How does it attach? That toggle that we talked about simply goes onto this inner ring here, pushes through, and the toggle obviously when pulled stays in place. And you repeat that at a ring at every single pegging point all the way around the tent. Now once you've established all of the connections all the way around, you'll see this webbing strap here that's attached to the main pegging point is also the adjustment for the floor. And if you pull up on these, that helps pull tight the floor that you put inside. But important to note that when you put your floor in, make sure that they're fully extended first to give you maximum adjustability. And when you start tightening, tighten them a little bit at a time on each one. Go around the whole tent by adjusting about that much at a time. And then to keep the floor central inside the tent, go around again, and then you can adjust where required. Simple and effective method. Also available for the tent teepee as an inner is the inner tent, and this is the Comfort Inner. And the Comfort Inner will enable a warmer environment inside the tent in the cooler months if you don't want to have a heat source inside the tent. It's got a big door zip that comes down, and it also has a centralized zip that goes back into the floor so that you can tuck it back and create that same dry area at the entrance that we talked about earlier. It attaches in the same way that we talked about the floors do. They have a toggling system at the bottom which attaches to those same rings so that you can pull it out on the outside tension strap to get the perfect tension inside your tent. At the top of the tent, it has hanging points, so you reach up, put these into the same D-rings high up on the tent, and you'll note that it also has a mosquito net panel there so that you can close that right off and stop the bugs coming in, first fastening it tight around your pole. It also has vent panels ×3, and they have got zip openings on them so that you can increase the airflow into the tent where required. In our experience, the floors are generally the way to go because the fabric itself on the tent feels nice and warm in the cooler months and very cool in the hot months, and the floor is a cheaper option to go with, and it's quite versatile to use with or without the tent where required. However, comfort inner floors are available should they be required. So I'm here inside a size 9 Tentipi, and just wanted to sort of show you a bit of a feeling of the space inside. When you're using nice low chairs like this, you know you can seat plenty of people around, and you can imagine, you know, if you've got a heat source going, especially in like winter months, or just all gathered around inside the tent, it's fantastic. The colouring of the fabric is fantastic, as you can see. It gives a lovely warm feeling inside the tent, and just when you look up to the sky, you know, you get these lines, the seam lines going up. It's fantastic, and you've got that view out to the blue sky or the stars at night, and well, we just can't wait to get the stove alight later. Fantastic. So we're here inside a size 15 Flex, and within the Flex model you have the ability to put the front up, as you've seen from some of our other videos, and they come complete with 3 poles and the strapping system so that you can strap it out and make a nice open front area. You can also add other poles to it if you want as an optional accessory. So these fillets on the inside tidy away nicely when they're not in use if you just want to use it conventionally. Just a little bit of an idea across here, you can see how the fabric, that's the bit that's left, and when you open up the zip on the outside there, then that expands out and gives you the extra fabric required on the tent to open it out more. Important to note that still with the size 15, you've got the adjustment system for the top cap in exactly the same way, and these are adjustable from the center pole here, or you can attach them to the side, and simply same system, you're pulling these to adjust the top cap, because obviously it's a long way to the top of the size 15, and there's plenty of space inside here for a small party, workshop, bushcraft schools, etc. It's been really popular for that, and during lockdown last year we had one of these up in the garden for a while. It's a great place to socialize with the family and do some cooking, etc. So it's really nice, we love it. So I hope these video bits of footage help you decide what Tentipi might be good for you. The company Tentipi is fantastic. We like their products. We've liked them from the very word go. We've all used them in less extreme conditions, family camping, out on the ice fishing, and the product is just amazing. It's built to last. It's got all year round use. And if you want some more information beyond what we've covered today, then you can go to www.tauntonleisure.com to get more info from our website. And you can also hit the request expert help button against any of the products. And that will mean that you can speak to somebody live or email them or have some chat about whatever it is your requirement are to help you get the right product for you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in.